Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. A school's warning over mobile phones. We've got a special report about the impact of screens on our children.
Really battling on many fronts, but the behaviours now that we're seeing as a result of that is a decrease in pupils' mental health, a decrease in their ability to interact constructively.
We'll show you what happened after we asked pupils to reduce their phone use for 3 weeks. Also tonight, an inquest finds a 6-month-old baby boy might have survived had he not been sent home from hospital. How new technology should make it easier to get through security at Leeds Bradford Airport. And a special weekend as the life of Rob Burrow is celebrated at Wembley and across the region.
And it's been another cold and windy June day. At least there's been a bit of sunshine. This was the River Air by Saltsmill earlier this afternoon. Don't forget that week ahead forecast plus. I'll be taking a look at what summer might hold in store. Join me later.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we start with an issue that many parents are battling with: smartphones. A Yorkshire school says inappropriate content on mobile phones is damaging children's communication skills and mental health. That's despite reassurances from technology companies. So we asked students at Kettlethorpe High School in Wakefield to take part in a 3-week challenge to reduce their screen time. Most of them said they socialise mainly online but wanted to spend less time on devices. So we helped them do just that. Here's what happened. So what we wanted to do the next few weeks is look at your relationships with devices, in particular smartphones. Who thinks that they've got a healthy relationship with their phone? Who thinks that they're probably on their smartphones a little bit too much? Over the course of 3 weeks, we want to see if with the correct guidance, a group of 11 to 15-year-olds can reduce the time that they spend looking at devices. We start by handing out a survey to see how much time they currently spend on screens.
I'm not very impressed.
Why?
Well, I'm never really on my phone that much, and it's much higher than I really expected it to be. I'm more on my computer. If I'm not doing anything on that day, it can go up to like 14 hours or something.
I get around like 8 to 10 hours, like daily. I guess I get a little bit sad as well. It's like I could have spent that time with my mum. You know, she's lonely downstairs.
My daily average is about 5 hours. A lot of that is just wasting time seeing what some random people in America are doing.
Throughout the programme, we've invited experts to speak to the children about the benefits of reducing their screen time, but more importantly, how they can do it. Dr. Charlotte Armitage is our first guest. She's a psychologist who's done a lot of work in this area.
Yeah, hands up who thinks that feels manageable. Yeah?
Many of them didn't recognise how much time they're spending on the devices. They want to put their phone down, but they find it too hard. So I think that's quite scary.
What are we asking the young people to do this week?
We're asking them to think of times where it's not healthy and helpful to use their devices, such as before bed, first thing in the morning. So think of when it's easiest for them to reduce their screen time.
At this school, we're very aware of the national debates relating to smartphone use, the impacts that they have on the mental health, the societal issues that they have on families, communities, the issues that they then bring into schools as a result of that. It's one of the reasons why we're so keen to take part in this project. It's to find more and more ways that we can constructively contribute to the improvement of a system that isn't going to get better on its own.
Good morning. Oh wow, you've all come back, I can't believe it. So last week, one of the things that was suggested that you might want to try was not charging your phone in your bedroom, not looking at your phone an hour before bed. Did anyone achieve that?
Done a lot more. I've done probably double the amount outside, got my homework done a lot faster. Everything's been a lot easier. It's been great.
Often it's just the easiest thing when you're tired or like when you're not feeling productive, it's just easier to go on your phone.
Our second guest is Dr. Ludmilla, who's a social media expert from the University of Leeds.
Why do the apps that I use get like really addictive?
It's important to think about is notifications, such as showing what your friends are seeing and liking and doing, showing content that you like to see or that you've seen in the past. So all of those are strategies that are reflected and built into the platform and technology itself to keep you coming back.
The young people here talked about harmful or upsetting content coming up that they haven't asked for. Is there a way to stop that?
I think nowadays there are different forms of parental control as well. They might be able to monitor the screen time of their child as well. But generally this means that it's the responsibility, it's on the user.
Hello again. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Week 3. How's it gone?
Well, I've realised how much other stuff I can do with my time instead of just wasting it on like a virtual thing which can't be actually be interacted with in real life. So I'd rather go out with my friends in real life than talk to them through a screen.
I enjoy it more because like I didn't talk to my grandparents that often, but then because we go visit more, because I'm like more into it because I'm not on my phone, I talk to them more often and it's interesting.
The third and final guest to speak to the students was Dr. Becky. She wanted to talk to them about the importance of sleep.
So the studies say that your age group should be having between 8¾ hours to 9¼ hours of sleep per night.
As a GP, what issues are you seeing teenagers come to you with?
Definitely struggling more with their sleep and general levels of anxiety.
And do you think that that is related to device use?
I don't understand how it can't be related to some extent. And the average use of these devices in children in this country is 3½ hours a day, up to 7 hours a day. So it can't possibly be looked at as a factor that isn't causing a problem here and making their issues worse.
So on your forms on the first week, most of you said that you socialised more online than in person. Has that changed? Put your hands up if you're socialising more in person now.
It's been a bit difficult because like I find it hard to get away from my phone, but then I realise, oh, I'm just on my phone all the time now, and then it's like I can't use that to escape how I feel. I need to face it like head on.
I just feel a lot happier, like I'm less distracted by my phone, and I also feel like a lot less pressure from social media and things like that.
There should be a lot more light shed on it. I know that in IT we already talk about safety as in like don't talk to strangers on the phone, but it should also be why it's bad for you to be on the phone in general.
So this was a 3-week challenge for you all to see if you could reduce your screen time. Who feels like they want to carry this on? Let's talk further with Christian Bruce Halliwell, the assistant head who you saw in that piece. Christian, what was the feedback from the students who took part in this programme?
Having spoken to the pupils after the 3-week project, the overwhelming feeling shared was surprise and positivity at what they'd experienced. And if I could paraphrase what they'd said in both the clips but also in conversations, it's the rediscovery of their childhood, being able to reconnect with the world around them, the people, the places, and move themselves slowly but incrementally away from their phones.
The stuff we covered was really quite basic, but it felt like it was missing. They do online safety and bullying at school, but the basics around device use and any potential harms just wasn't there.
So within school we have a very comprehensive personal development curriculum. We teach them about online safety, road safety, we teach them about sex and relationship education, we teach them about a wide variety of real life, if you like, knowledge. One gap that we do know is the ability to interact with specific technology, so mobile, smartphone technology specifically, whilst covered, is not necessarily an explicit part in the ways that you talk about. And as schools we can reflect on that, but ultimately we need to be working together with adults around the child to make sure that at home they're aware, before they get a smartphone, what healthy usage looks like, just as we would with any device that we give them. We give them a console and say, look, couple of hours only. We place limits when we give them these things, and it's the same for smartphones. As adults in all walks of life, we need to be helping children with that.
The parents aren't always aware though, are they? So who does this responsibility come down to? Do schools need more guidance from up above to tackle this issue of smartphone use?
I think Ultimately, we're going to need some government assistance in terms of statutory regulation of how companies interact with the technologies, who then interact with the children. We need that support as a society, because at the moment I think there is a gap, there's a vacuum in exactly who is going to deal with that and take the reins in challenging the negative aspects of mobile phone use. I think as well as focusing on enforcement, we need to engage and explain what all the different pros and cons of smartphone use are, but also making sure that pupils, young people, but also adults as well, understand what the issues are, and that can only happen through education, through a variety of media, from both those producing the technology, but also those working with it and promoting it.
Well, thank you so much for letting us come into school. It was really fascinating, and the students were a real delight to work with.
Thank you very much.
Next tonight, an inquest jury has concluded that a 6-month-old baby with chickenpox would have probably survived if he hadn't been sent home from A&E. Hunter Martin had mistakenly given an overdose of antibiotics 10 times the prescribed amount on 5 occasions when he was brought back to Chesterfield Royal Hospital. Rob Sisons has more.
Hunter, described as a blue-eyed angel by his mum and dad, was just 6 months old when he died in March of last year. 2 days before his death, they'd taken him to Chesterfield's A&E, worried about his temperature after he got chickenpox. An inquest jury concluded he shouldn't have been sent home. If he'd been kept at Chesterfield Royal Hospital and given appropriate treatment and monitoring, he would probably still be alive today. His parents feel betrayed.
Parents do everything for the children, but medically, when they're poorly, it's something you don't know what you're doing with. So you do trust them to sort your children, well, help your children, and it's just gone very wrong.
Hunter was taken back to hospital the next day by his concerned parents, but it proved too late. He'd got Group A streptococcus infection and developed sepsis. At Chesterfield Royal, Hunter was also given an overdose of the antibiotic clindamycin.
He should have had 94 milligrams per dose, and he had 940 milligrams on 5 separate occasions.
Well, there wasn't evidence at this inquest to show that the drugs blunder had more than minimally contributed to Hunter's death. The family say they'd like to look into that more, and will always be left wondering, what impact did it have?
We just feel let down by the whole process, really. Particularly with clindamycin. I mean, I think that needs more digging.
Tonight, the Chesterfield Royal Hospital says it wants to apologise to Hunter's family and recognises there are opportunities for it to improve its care. Rob Sissons, BBC Look North, Chesterfield, Derbyshire.
Let's have a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom now. A man has died after police were called to a domestic incident in Stanningley. Armed officers saw a man in a house with what appeared to be a handgun yesterday evening. When they later entered the property, they found the man critically injured. He died in hospital later. West Yorkshire Police has referred itself to the police watchdog. An investigation is underway following another fire at Dalton Mills in Keighley. Police say the incident yesterday is being treated as arson. Crews were called to the site again this morning, but the cause of this is currently unknown. In 2022, the mill was nearly destroyed by another fire. Next tonight, holidays often start with a scramble to get through airport security, but new rules mean passengers at Leeds Bradford Airport no longer have to remove things like makeup and phones from their bags. 3D scanners also mean multiple small bottles are now allowed, but a last-minute change means larger bottles of liquid will still be restricted. Here's our transport correspondent, Spencer Stokes.
Keep everything in your bag, you don't need to take anything out.
An unloved pre-flight routine that at Leeds Bradford has come to an end. Electronics and small bottles of liquids can stay in bags after the installation of high-tech security scanners. It's a big change for passengers, and the airport says it should smooth out the security process.
This has been a really exciting development for security in the UK. With the new technology that we've implemented, it means that customers can now leave their electronics and their electrical items in the bag, and they can also leave their liquids in the bag. So it avoids that process of having to stop, take everything out, sort it out separately, and then also avoids the repacking at the other end of the security experience. So you're now able to take an unlimited quantity of 100ml containers in your baggage through security.
The current security rules were introduced in 2006 after a threat to blow up several transatlantic flights with liquid bombs. The new rules mean all electronics can now stay in bags, along with multiple bottles or tubes containing liquids up to 100 millilitres. Shoes can also be left on. The government initially said that in the UK, bottles containing up to 2 litres of liquid would also be allowed through security, but over the weekend they reversed that decision.
I can't talk about the specifics of security, but the government has detected something in that process that they're not happy with, and as a result have reimposed a limit of 100 millilitres per container.
There are 4 new scanners here, a multi-million-pound investment by the airport, and what they do is generate a colour 3D image of what's inside each bag. Now, we can't show you that image, but there is a much greater level of detail.
We just went straight through, so much simpler. It makes travelling a lot easier. I think it's a really great new system.
I didn't realise you could take as many 100ml bottles as you wanted, to be fair. Probably makes it easier.
It's a lot quicker, and we didn't have to take stuff out of our bags, and it just speeded up the whole process.
Leave everything in your bag.
Leeds Bradford is one of just 6 UK airports that has fully converted to the new technology. Other airports are expected to fully install the new scanners by next year. It's not known when liquids in excess of 100 millilitres will be allowed through security. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Certainly make things a lot quicker, won't it? Thanks, Spencer. On to the election now, and Nigel Farage's party Reform UK has dropped its candidates for the new constituency of Leeds West and Pudsey. It's after previous social media comments were reported in a national newspaper. Meanwhile, a former Green Party councillor has announced she'll stand as an independent after a row with the party. Our political editor James Vincent is in Pudsey for us now. James, it's all happening in Pudsey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's that now traditional part of the campaign, Amy, where we get the nominations in on a Friday. People trawl through the social media comments in the past of the candidates, and some of them have to drop out, and we are a couple of candidates down in Leeds West and Pudsey where we are now. Andrea Whitehead has been dropped by Reform after comments she'd made online about London, the London mayor, and basically they've decided she's not their candidate anymore. Her biography has been removed from the website. Reform telling me that they've dropped support for her, though she may still be on the ballot paper when people get there on the 4th of July. Adam Gregg, who was the Spen Valley candidate for the Conservatives, who was selected a while ago, some comments surfaced that he'd made about girls online. He's apologised for them, but he's been replaced as candidate. A replacement that was so last minute. There's actually 2 Conservative candidates on that nomination form. And if we move from Spen Valley to Rotherham, 2 candidates on the nomination form in Spen Valley, no candidates on the nomination form in Rotherham. The candidate there pulled out at the last minute due to a change in circumstances. So there is no Conservative candidate in Rotherham. And in Sheffield Central, the Green Party candidate, well, a former Green Party candidate, Alison Teal, has left the party. She's now an independent. She was suspended from the Green Party in 2022 because of comments she made on her views about trans rights. She thought she'd be the candidate. She's not the candidate. The Green Party have got a different candidate, so she's going to stand as an independent. And it's really interesting. Last week, we asked the parties what they were doing about this to select their candidates. Nobody got back to us apart from the Lib Dems. It's an important process that they all go through. All the candidates for all the constituencies that I've mentioned are on the BBC website, and if you scan this QR code that's on your screen now, you can ask us any question you want or tell us anything you want about the election, and we will do our best to cover it or answer it. Back to you, Amy.
James, thank you. And James and I will have a special election programme tomorrow as well. Thanks, James. Now, let's move on to sport now with Sally. Some real emotional scenes again, some beautiful tributes to Rob Burrow over the weekend, Sal.
Yeah, I was in Wembley, and the Challenge Cup finals weekend, of course, is one of the biggest dates in the Rugby League calendar, and this year it did have special significance as fans paid their respects to Rob Burrow, who died of motor neurone disease just over a week ago. In the women's final, Leeds Rhinos were beaten by St Helens, but even that couldn't spoil what was a really moving and memorable weekend.
At Wembley's Rugby League statue, fans from all teams came to lay flowers, pause and pay tribute to the one and only Rob Burrow, a player whose impact on the game and on the campaign to raise awareness of motor neurone disease goes far and wide.
The game can be guilty sometimes of being tribal, almost parochial, but when there's adversity and somebody needs help, they rally round and they get together, and it is a family. It's, for me, the biggest selling point, the biggest attraction, the biggest magnetism of rugby league. I don't think there's another sport quite like it. There's so many happy memories here of Rob, and there'll not be a dry eye in the house.
All the Leeds fans loved him, all the rugby league community loved him. I just had to be here today to celebrate his life.
He's got a heart of a lion. I mean, the legend that we just wrote on the flowers there, you know, he's a giant among men.
I met this big soft lump about 2-3 years ago and introduced me to rugby league. What a family it all is, and, you know, the courage, strength, not only Rob, but his family.
We send our love and support to his wife, Lindsay.
And Rob's family were very much in the minds of the players as they lined up on the pitch, wearing specially commissioned number 7 shirts in his honour. A minute's silence before the game began.
And Salih's made a mess of that. The ball's loose.
Leeds started brightly but had an early try disallowed for a knock-on in the build-up, and after that St Helens were dominant with 4 tries to win the game by 22 points to 0.
So not the result that Leeds were hoping for, losing out to St Helens for the 3rd year in a row. But with a real sense of the rugby league community coming together in memory of Rob Burrow, this will be a Challenge Cup weekend to remember.
And back home in Yorkshire, those number 7 shirts were also evident in park runs across the weekend, where hundreds took part in tribute events. Today, the Leeds Rhinos began the task of storing the shirts and mementos that had been left at Headingley. All cards and messages will be photographed and put into a book to be housed at the stadium and the new Rob Burrow Centre for MND.
2 more of our rugby league teams were in action on Saturday at Wembley too, with Sheffield Eagles going head-to-head with Wakefield Trinity in the final of the 1895 Cup. It was Wakefield who came out on top, scoring 9 tries to win by 50 points to 6 in what was their first Wembley appearance since 1979. To the European Athletics Championships in Rome, where Harrogate's George Mills won silver in the 5,000 metres. 25-year-old Mills, who's the son of former England footballer Danny, was shoulder to shoulder with Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen for much of the race, but was beaten in the final straight to finish as runner-up. That medal, though, puts him in a good place for selection to the Paris Olympics later this summer. And speaking of Paris, Chesterfield badminton player Jack Shepherd has been selected to compete for Great Britain at the Paralympics in August. The 26-year-old will take part in the singles and the mixed doubles. He previously competed at the Tokyo Games, where badminton made its debut in the Paralympic programme. Good luck to him.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, a Wakefield singer has said she was honoured to be part of the commemorations to mark the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Katie Ashby from the D-Day Darlings entertained veterans at the Royal Albert Hall. Let's take a look.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know where.
We've had the most wonderful time taking part in the D-Day 80 commemorations. It has been truly humbling to be out and about performing for and meeting the veterans, to sing with them, to hear their stories one more time has just been incredibly moving.
It was a beautiful concert. I was a blubbering mess for that one. Paul is here now with his weekly weather view. Paul, we can only talk about one thing today. I was wearing a coat all weekend. It's freezing. What's happened to summer?
It is freezing. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Temperatures are like 4 or 5 degrees below average, but I mean, it's quite unusual. We like to take a wider view on this little slot, and it really is unusual. I've got a picture of global temperature anomalies across the world, and you can see that sort of Western Europe's lower than average. The blues are temperatures below average. The reds are higher than average. More than two-thirds of the planet are very warm at the moment. Cyprus at the weekend had a new record, 45 degrees, so it is quite unusual on the wrong side of the jet stream, which means that it is cool and really quite unsettled, unfortunately.
Is that it then? Summer done?
Well, I know you're going to force me into a summer forecast. It's the holy grail of weather forecasting. It's so difficult to get right, but we look at all sorts of different elements. For example, what we talked about over coffee the other day, the El Nino in the equatorial Pacific, an upwelling of warm water. That's going to switch to a La Nina. That will change weather patterns. We've got tropical cyclone forecast. It's going to be very active in the subtropics. The hurricane season is going to be very active. What does that mean for us? Well, in my experience, it suggests that although it will be slow to get going, we might have to wait until late June into July. I think that July and August will see a lot of fine weather, a lot of warm weather, and in fact the Met Office have forecast that there's a much higher chance of heat waves developing throughout the course of summer. So we might have to be patient. Think back to June 1989. It was a very, very similar start to summer, and in the end July was really nice. So fingers crossed.
I remember that June 1989 very well. And in case you're wondering, I bought the coffees.
Yes, you did actually.
Paul's QR code is coming on your screen now if you've got a question for him for next week.
That's right. Any questions at all about the weather or the climate, and please, that seasonal forecast, don't hold me to it if it turns out to be a wet and windy summer, but those are my ideas at the moment. Let's have a look at a couple of weather pictures that you've sent in. Fantastic one of Bempton Cliffs. I absolutely love that part of Yorkshire. And the second picture is one of Headingley. A brilliant victory for Yorkshire yesterday. The rain just held off. So keep the pictures coming in. Addresses are on your screen right now. Tomorrow, unfortunately, it is another cool and unsettled picture with scattered showers. Bit of a respite perhaps on Wednesday. Thankfully, we're going to get rid of these cool northerlies, but it's only to introduce more wet weather as we head through Thursday, but at least by the weekend temperatures will be back to normal. We've had a few showers, and in fact the showers coming into North Yorkshire now are quite heavy and thundery. So sunshine and scattered heavy showers this evening. Overnight it should become mostly dry with clear spells. Just a few showers skirting down the coast. By the end of the night, temperatures down to 6 or 7 degrees. Tomorrow's high water times very quickly. Scarborough at 6 minutes past 8. Tomorrow then a repeat performance of today. A bright start, some sunshine. It will tend to cloud over to a certain extent. We'll see a scattering of showers coming through. A blustery north wind. Very disappointing temperatures for June. Just 14 degrees. More at 10:30.
We won't hold you to that summer forecast. We will keep the thermals well and truly on for the foreseeable.
Very wise.
That is it from us, but more at 10:30. Bye-bye for now.